for the headlines.
Geography. The national flag. The national symbol. The currency. The Prime Minister and the President. Religion.
Language, costume and tradition, cuisines, traditional costume, sports, education, festival and events, do's and don'ts, tourist attractions.
Singapore is a small but important island nation located just south of the Malaysia. In the 2nd century AD, the first settlement was established in Singapore by the Sumatran Surabaya Empire. At the later between 16th and 19th centuries, the area was controlled by the Sultanate of Johor. In 1819, Thomas Stamford Raffles arrived and signed the treaty with Sultan Hussein Shah. In 1824, the entire island became a British possession under a further treaty with the Sultan and Temenggong. In 1860, the population exceeded 80,000 with over half of the population being China. In 1963, Singapore separated from Britain and joined the independent country of Malaysia. However, this is not work. In 1965, Singapore became a fully independent country. The area total of 697 square kilometers and the land is 187 square kilometers and the water is about 10 square kilometers and the land boundaries is 0 kilometers and the coastline is 193 kilometers. Singapore is located in the Southeastern Asia, island between Malaysia and Indonesia, lying just north of the equator on the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula in Southeast Asia, between the Indian Ocean and South China. As a city-state, Singapore is both the city and its capital. Singapore Island is the main island of Singapore, which is also called Pulau Ujung and has an area about 710 square kilometers. Singapore consists of 63 islands, including the main island, widely known as Singapore Island but also as Pulau Ujung. There are two man-made connections to Johor, Malaysia, the Johor-Singapore Causeway in the north and the T. Tuas Second Link in the west. Jurong Island, Pulau Tekong, Pulau Ubin, and Sentosa are the largest Singapore smaller island. The highest natural point is Bukit Timah Hill at 166 meters. The Minister of Singapore is Lee Hsien Loong. He is the head of government of the Republic of Singapore. The President appoints the Prime Minister, a member of Parliament MP, who in their opinion is most likely to command the confidence of the majority of MPs. He took office on August 12, 2004. The President of Singapore is the head of state of the Republic of Singapore. She is Halimah Yacob. The role of the President is largely ceremonial with executive authority vested in the cabinet led by the Prime Minister. The flag of Singapore is called Singaporea. The red represents the brotherhood and the equality, the white, purity and virtue, and the moon is a waxing crescent is symbolic of the new nation, a young nation just beginning to reach its peak. The stars represent democracy, peace, justice, and equality, each ideals of the new Singaporean. The national symbol of Singapore is called the lion head. It symbolizes the courage, strength, and excellence as well the resilience in the face of challenges. It is in solid red against a white background, the colors of the national flag. It means 5 things represent the same 5 ideals that are embodied in the 5 star of national flag namely democracy, peace, progress, justice, and equality. Its tenacious main symbolizes resolve to face and overcome any challenges. The currency of Singapore is called Singaporean dollar. The equivalent of 1 Singaporean dollar to Philippine peso is 41.38. For close proximity to the equator means that its temperature and humidity remain relatively even throughout the years. The hottest weather are during the month of May and June, and the coolest month around December and January.
Religion in Singapore. The most followed religion in Singapore is Buddhism, with 33.3% Singaporean populations is being a Buddhist. Singapore is the home of 10 religions. Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity are the primary religions of Singapore. The Lion City is the ultimate melting pot, with the locals celebrating all festivals pompously, irrespective of the religion they follow. It does not have a state-regulated religion which the citizens are supposed to follow. Singaporeans are free to decide and follow any religion they like. Unlike other countries, this stands absolutely true. The Singapore religion is technically a mix of several communities. These are the 5 main religions in Singapore. Number 1 is Buddhism. Buddhism is the one of the main religion in Singapore, with also 3/5 of population are Buddhist. The form of Buddhism most prevalent here in the Chinese Mahayana. Singapore is the most few places which houses monasteries and temples from the 3 different major traditions of Buddhists, Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana, the largest Mahayana Buddhist temple. The famous Buddhist monasteries in Singapore is Buddha Tooth Relic Temple, Wat Ananda Metirayama, and Lian Shan Shuang Lin Monastery. And the last is Burmese Buddhist Temple. The second religion in Singapore is Taoism. Taoism is another major religion in Singapore. Taoism was born of the preaching of the famous Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. According to him, the true way of leading life is being honoring an ancestor and being compassionate towards the earlier generation. Next religion is Islam. Islam is not a very prominent religion in Singapore. Although you will still find a lot of Muslims here, roughly 14% are followers of this religion. The Mahisugama Islam Singapore or MUIS is the primary body Singapore responsible for protecting and improvising on the social and cultural and religious needs of the Muslim of Singapore. They also take care of the mosques and other very involved in organizing a yearly pilgrimage to Mecca. Next religion in Singapore is Hinduism. Hinduism is eminent deities are worshipped by the Hindus in the world, and Singapore's alike includes Ganesha, Lakshmi, Parvati, Rama, Durga, Krishna, and Hanuman to name a few. Hindus form more than 5% of the entire population of Singapore. The oldest Hindu temple also is known by the name of Mariamman Temple. It is located here. Local Hindus and people from all over the world come to Singapore to visit this temple. It attracts millions of tourists annually and very famous among the Singaporeans. There are total of 30 Hindu temples in Singapore. All these temples, as well as the social, cultural, and religious rights, are protected and managed by the Hindu Advisory Board. The next religion is Christianity. Christianity is the oldest Christian church, also known as the Armenian Church, is situated in Singapore. It was built in 1830s and is quite popular amongst Christians all over the world. It is flanked by millions of people from over the world and Singapore alike. Christianity has reacts as Protestant and Catholic churches, catering to both these sects are located here. There are around 30 Catholic churches spread across the country and as many or more Protestant churches as well. And let's begin to the language of Singapore. Mandarin, Tamil, Malay, and English is the Singapore languages. Mandarin is to unite the large Chinese population. Tamil, which double as the national language of the Singapore because it's language of the indigenous population. Malay is to represent the Indian populations of Singapore. English is due to the Singapore's history as a British colony. All Singaporeans are now mainly educated in English, but they are also required to take courses in mother tongue that correspond to their ethnic background. Mandarin is the mother tongue assigned to students of Chinese background, even though the student's family might use a different Chinese language or English at home. Example of Sindarin is number 1 is Kaneng next week Kao Shi Hu Wo Men Tai. In English is maybe we can meet next week after I finish my exams. So in the first sentence, we see basically a Mandarin sentence with some English vocabulary taking the place of Mandarin words. So number 2 is Jian Shidi with their hair is Pu. Number 2 is Jian Shidi with their Henry Buwai Tahan. So in English is one weather today is too hot. I can't stand it. In the sentence we see an English word and then this word is buwai is a Hokkien word meaning cannot. And this word tahan is commonly Malay word meaning tolerate. So these two words often appear together in this phrase meaning something like I can stand it. The next is Tamil. Tamil is the mother tongue assigned to students of Indian background, even though they may speak different Indian language or English at home. The next is Malay. Malay is the mother tongue assigned to students of Malay background, and its standard form is essentially the same as the standard Malay as we in Malaysia and Brunei. Malay is also given special status as the national language of Singapore. Example of Malay is apabila orang Singapura mendehar tentang tempat yang mempunyai barang murah, dia akan pergi ke situ. It means when a Singaporean hears when goods are cheap, he goes there. The next is English, the official language that is most commonly spoken at home. There are two basic terms of English in Singapore. Number 1 is Standard Singaporean, which is used based on the conventions or British English and spoken with the uniquely Singaporean accent. Number 2 is Colloquial Singaporean English and most popularly known as Singlish. But why do I care if people use English? Well, I suppose that because they want people to use form of English that can successfully be used in academic and professional situations. But speaking English doesn't mean that cannot speak mother tongue. Example of Singlish is that chicken rice restaurant out there, si Beitokong. Their food I must try. So in the standard English, that chicken rice restaurants are there has amazing good food. We've got to try it if it's the last thing we do. So this first sentence starts off like standard English, but then we see this phrase there, si Bei Tokong. Tokong is praise from Hokkien, which means very good. and Sibei is an insipier with a somewhat grim etymology in the second sentence. You see topic place of the beginning again, and there's no subject in the sentence because it's clear from the context and that we have this unique adverb always is die. Even though the use of Singlish is discouraged by the government, that doesn't mean that it's on the decline impact to many people. Singlish has become a source of local there and identity. Customs and traditions in Singapore. Number 1 is while meeting a Singaporean, formally or informally, make sure to shake hands firmly with all, even when departing. A slight bow while shaking hand is considered as a respectful. The next is take off the shoes before entering anyone's house. Also remember to take them off before visiting any mosques or temple. The third is make sure you never pinpoint someone or something with a finger. Just raise your hand for indication. The next is gender discrimination is a legal offense in Singapore. Thus take care not to disrespect anyone. The next is refer to the middle-aged and elderly people as an uncle or auntie, as is seen as a sign of the respect in Singapore. The next is while eating with chopsticks, do not stick them upright in bowl. It is reminiscent of funeral rites and considered as a bad luck. The next is do not touch anyone's head, as is considered sacred by many. On the contrary, and feet are regarded as dirty. So do not point them directly at someone. The next is casual clothes. Shirts, t-shirts, and flip-flops are acceptable in the places in Singapore. Pack formal outfit and dresses, shoes, or higher ends in restaurants.
What first things in your mind when educational system in Singapore? The educational system in Singapore is managed by Ministry of Education, which is MOE. It controls the development and administration of state schools, receiving taxpayers' funding, but also has advisory and supervisory role in respect of private schools. For both private and state schools, there are variation in extent of autonomy in their curriculum, scope of taxpayers' aid and funding, tuition burning of the students, and administration policy. In Singapore, the system includes 6 years of primary school, followed by the 4 to 6 years of secondary school, and 1 to the 3 years post-secondary school. The curriculum for primary school is common for all student years 1 to 4. Let's proceed to the festival and events in Singapore. The first event is the Pongal. Pongal is a 4-day period of festival which is celebrated widely in southern India. The Indians in Singapore are also celebrating with gratitude of the beginning of the auspicious month of Thai. This is festival of celebrating as a thank you to the Son of God, which is Surya, for the harvest in the riches of life. During Pongal, Little India is split up into various events and competitions. People and exchange gifts for new clothes during the festival event in Singapore. Number 2 event in Singapore, which is Thai Pusam. Thai is a month in Tamil calendar, and the Pusam is the name of the star. During the month of Thai, Pusam star is the highest point in the sky. Thus the Thai Pusam festival is celebrated during the full moon day. In Singapore, devotees walk from the Sri Vensa Perumai Temple to the Sri Dedayu Taphani Temple. The celebration continues for 2 days, the eve of the day and the day itself. It festivals the devotees to fulfill their vows. Some of the devotees carry spikes, kavadis, which is altars, and the pieces of through the torso, while the devotees carry pots of milk that are poured over the bat, a divine javelin. Number 3. Lantern Festival. Lantern Festival is of the spring of the Lantern Festival is one of the most popular festivals in Singapore. It marks the last day of celebration of the Chinese New Year, and the 15th day of the calendar. During this day, the kids carry paper lantern outside, lift them and release in the sky. Some paper's lanterns are simple and traditional, where some are of different shapes and sizes. And now the number 4 is Vesak Day. Vesak Day is celebrated all over the world by followers of the Buddhism. It marks the enlightenment and death of Buddha. During the festival, Singapore devotees are often found meditating and doing significant amount of charity work. This day allows them people to self-reflect. Vesak Day falls of the full moon during the month of Vesak. 5 is the Hari Raya Puasa. Hari Raya Puasa marks the end of the Ramadan, the month of fasting by the Muslim. Hari Raya Puasa means the day of celebration. During the festival in Singapore, people visit the mosques and the graves to greet and family passed away. They celebrating wearing new clothes, visiting their families along with reciting takbir in mosques in the evening. Oil lamps are also lit up. The festival symbolizes the purification in rural and individual. The number 6 is Singapore National Day. The National Day of Singapore is one of the favorite festivals in the Singapore. The day in the celebrating is called the parade, followed by the choreographic dances and much more. Every Singaporean takes pride in their country, people and their harmony. And the number 7 is Deepavel, in short, Diwali. Deepavel or Diwali marks the day Lord Rama returned to his kingdom. It signifies the victory of good over the bad. During this day, Little India is lit up light and skies are filled with dazzling fireworks in the sky. People wear new clothes and greet each other before the day. Some of the families clean their houses and make new purchases. 8th festival in Singapore, Hari Raya Haji. Hari Raya Haji symbolizes sacrifice made by Ibrahim, which is willingness to sacrifice his firstborn. Volunteer from the mosque sacrifice goat, sheep, and cows. 1/3 of the meat is given to the ones who need, and the rest is given to the family of the people who offer the animals for sacrifice. 9 is the Hungry Ghost Festival. The Hungry Ghost Festival is the festival celebrated by the Buddhists and the Taoists of the 15th night of the 7th month of the Chinese calendar. It believed that the ghosts come on during this period from the lower realms. During the festival, in Singapore, people visit the grave to meet their ancestors and deceased members of their family to offer them food. Offerings are made to spirits, the deceased, to take care of their materials needs even the afterlives. It's said the ghosts make mischiefs and they are ignored. What unique about this is ghost festivals in Singapore is that there are many entertainment sources available for people. Large tents are also set up during the festival, and many of the people performances are also conducted. The festival is also called Song Xuan Festival or Yulan Festival, which is known as Hungry Ghost Festival. And the number 10 festivals in Singapore is the Singapore Grand Prix. Yes, you heard, that's right, Singapore Grand Prix, held during September in the perfect place to enjoy the thrill, to feel the rush that even both of their track. The Formula 1 race championship takes place through the city, support for favorite to cheer up them. Post-racing are many concerts and parties held. Grand Prix in Singapore attracts many island dwellers and foreigners as well. Do's and don'ts in Singapore. Things first to be aware while you are in Singapore. The number 1 is make sure you stand and walk at the proper side. When using the stairs or escalators, etiquette in Singapore says that you stand off the left and walk on the right. Singaporeans are also provide separate biking and walking paths. The number 2 is join the quick or line up. Singaporeans see the value of forming orderly quick to ensure that everyone gets their turn. The lines are also a variety of common daily activities, such as ordering food or preparing for boarding a train. The number 3 is treat your elders respectfully and like family. In Singapore, people shows that level of respect and family with thus older than them, referring that anyone significantly older than you and auntie and uncle is expected should be followed. It's a way of demonstrating courtesy to one's elders. And the number 4 is know the climate before you arrive. Those preparing to come to Singapore should ensure that they familiarize themselves with the climate. This will ensure you that you have clothes necessary to remain comfortable throughout your stay. And the last one is freely drink the tap water. Singaporeans are commitment to cleanliness and also extend its tap water. The water supply is held to high standards safely and remain completely healthy for tourists and local alike to enjoy. And now let's proceed to the don'ts in Singapore. The number one is do not litter. Singaporean has been earned the reputation as the fine city. The number of the fines given to the people for the things that they might go completely unnoticed in other countries. In Singapore, however, fines can reach up to $1,000. Can include the sentence for community work as a punishment. And the number two is do not chew a gum. Yes, a bubble gum. The sale and the import of chewing gum is illegal in Singapore. This means visitors cannot even bring gum in them when they enter. This helps you to further reduce the level of trash and dirt around the city, as no one has to worry about accidentally stepping or chew gum in the sidewalk and finding themselves faced with the unpleasant task or scraping it off the bottom of their shoes. And the third one is do not try to bring cigarettes in Singapore. Although Singapore does have designated certain areas around the cities when the smoke is permitted, the city strictly regulates the ability of travelers of cigarettes into the region. And the fifth one is do not forget about alcohol laws. Although alcohol is completely outlawed like many other types of drugs, those coming to the Singapore do need to make sure that they completely understand the laws surrounding the selling and consumption of alcohol throughout the city. Namely, alcohol cannot be sold in a variety of places after 10:30 p.m. in the evening. And the last one is do not use drugs. Yes, do not use drugs. Singapore also outlawed drugs and offered can face harsh punishment and fine for their breaking the laws.
I can show you the world. We can start in the Singapore cuisines, traditional costume in Singapore sports. The cuisine is the food in Singapore has cultural influences from everywhere and have been assembled together to create something totally unique. You'll find Chinese, Indonesian, Southern Asian influences, and not surprisingly, Pacifican, the Malay influences. The country offers so much to choose from, and there are many similarities to the food of Malaysia. Here are three traditional Singapore foods or dishes. In the number one is Hainanese, adapted from the early Chinese immigrants from Hainan Island. We love this deceptively simple dish. The number two is the char kway teow. Char kway teow is not exactly photogenic by looking black and oily. The dish is extremely delicious, fried in the dark soy sauce complemented by ingredients of egg, Chinese sausages, builds proud and conquers. The number 3 is Bakute. Bakute is a pork rib dish cooked in a broth, popularly served in Malaysia and Singapore. Traditional costumes, male and female clothes. Male clothes is a man wear a salwar kurtan and a dhoti, a long piece of embroidered cloth worn around the waist, or a chicken embroidered and polar lace. Mostly other than these traditional dresses of Singapore, the fashion culture of Singapore. The number 2 is the female clothes that you call baju kurung is a traditional Singapore costume, as well as the national dress of Malaysia through the people of Indonesia, the Singapore and Thailand have adapted with it. Well, it is also the national dress of Singapore. This traditional costume became fashionable in the late 19th century by Sultan Abu Bakar. The Singapore national sport is football, as the most popular sport in the country. It is no surprise that soccer is the national sport of Singapore. The sport is not officially designated as the national sport by the government. However, the national teams are recognized by the government.
Hi, everybody. Roll the next track. Roll is the name of the man who will report today about the top 10 tourist attractions in Singapore. Singapore has been described as a playground of the region. It's true that the small city status have a certain shingle. But Singapore offers more than just high-end shopping malls, luxury hotels, and fine dining. There's also a vibrant history and diverse ethnic water to discover, along with many families. Attractions and lovely public spaces that make this a 10. This slightly futuristic city worthwhile. Singapore has an excellent public transportation system that makes getting around convenient and easy. Here are the 10 top rated tourist attractions of Singapore. Number 1, opulent Murray. Now patients with a complex include high luxury hotel along with the tunnel running. The Art Science Museum and the Marina Bay Sands. Skybox observation deck of anti-comfort taking name. The entire city. The sky park viewing deck and the deep pool are found in. The sheep bathtubs of the hotel, but only hotel guests are allowed to use the infinity pool, but anyone can visit the sky park viewing deck. From the sky park you can see the inevitable Helix Bridge. The ball of the garden by the bay in the impressive skyline. You can also visit the Marina Bay Sands Casino. Try your hand at 700 table games and over to 500 gaming machines spread out over 4 palatial tables. Number 2 garden by the bay. Once you glimpse this beautiful and green space, you won't be able to stay away. Wonderful, the bay is garden, perfect for enjoying the vibrant when life and escaping the city bustle for a moment. You won't want to miss Silver Tree Grove, where you will find a cluster of the iconic futuristic structures designed to perform environmentally sustainable function. Then head to the Cloud Forest Dome to see the world's tallest indoor waterfall and learn a bit about biodiversity. Number 2, Botanic Garden Singapore received its first UNESCO Heritage nomination for its botanical garden, and with good reason. The city can sometimes feel like a concrete jungle, albeit clean and comfortable one, but the botanical garden preserves pieces of Singapore's wider heritage. Here walking trails leads to the garden, which all conserve this part of an effort to protect the city of mature tree species. Make sure to visit the impressive National Locust Garden as well. Other popular things to do include visiting the Eco Garden, Eco Lake, Bonsai Garden, sculptures and several the formal garden. Number 4, Singapore Zoo, billing itself as the world's best rainforest to the Singapore Zoo is pretty impressive place. The facility is clean and inviting, and the animals are well treated with plenty of lush vegetation and habitat space. The orangutans are particularly impressive, and visitors can watch the babies and the adults like swinging high above their platforms and snack of fruits. There are also a large amount of chimpanzee family, zebra, meerkats, Komodo dragon, morass, white-tailed girls, kangaroos, and many other creatures family. Guests can observe feeding for the sum of animals. Allows at least 3 hours to make you on the zoo. If the zoo doesn't satisfy your need for getting close to the wildlife, there also a night safari, river safari, including a giant panda forest and a Jerome Bird Park. Park hoppers are available if you plan to visit more than one of the wildlife park. Number 5, Orchard Road, one of the city's most iconic streets. Orchard Road is the epicenter of shopping in Singapore. Flanked off both sides by local and international department store. Tiny boutiques offers beauty salon, hotels, entertainment spa, restaurant and cafe. You can spend the whole day trolling the main thoroughfare shopping malls. Along Orchard Road are stops with practically everything under the sun. Plus there's always some kind of fair or activity taken place in the malls and shopping centers, so there are probably more things to do in Orchard Road than anywhere else in Singapore. If you're hungry while burning through all that cash, there are plenty of eateries in the neighborhood serving international food. Number 6, Singapore Flyer, the world's largest giant observation wheel. Choose from several different packages that allow you to be served and pampered while enjoying the view that compasses not only the Singapore skyline, but as far away as the Spice Island of Indonesia and Malaysia, straight up Johor. Flight lasts for 30 minutes and run from early morning until late at night. So you can choose which view of the city you want to enjoy. The beginning of another bustling day when Singapore is aglow after dark. Number 7, Chinatown. Exploring Chinatown is one of the best things to do in Singapore. No matter how many times you visit of the city, it's great for shopping. Many swear you will you found the cheapest souvenir here. You will see something more than the attractions and find plenty of authentic Chinese food. There are countless restaurants and hawker food vendors to choose from. The more about its history from the Chinatown Heritage Center on Pagoda Street. Number 8, Sentosa Island. Singapore is not exactly known as the destination, but if you're craving some fun under the sun, Sentosa Island is the place to find it. Siloso Beach is a good spot for getting in beach time, man. Visitors can play volleyball on free cuts or go kayaking and paddle boarding. There are several other beach attractions as well. Plus a sea aquarium where you can swim with dolphins. I hope you enjoy the show and give me hot reacts. I hope you enjoy the show and give me hot reacts. I hope you enjoy the show and give me hot reacts. I hope you enjoy the show and give me hot reacts.
10 things that you didn't know about Singapore. Number 1. Singapore is the highest concentration of millionaire household in the world, with about 16% of the households having $1 million or more on investable assets. Number 2. The Prime Minister of Singapore is the highest paid government official in the world. The Prime Minister of Singapore is also the highest paid elected official in the world. The annual salary of the Prime Minister in Singapore is about 1.5 million US dollar. In contrast, India's Prime Minister, who rules a population that is about 200 times the population of Singapore, earns about 30,000 US dollar as a salary and perks. The second highest paid government official in the world is the CEO of Hong Kong. The annual salary is about $540,000. Number 3. Singapore is the second most densely populated sovereign nation in the world. About 7,600 people live per square kilometers in Singapore. Number 4. The largest fountain in the world is located in Singapore at Suntec City, made of cast bronze. It cost an estimated $6 million to build in 1997. The Singapore's flyer is the world's highest observation wheel and is the highest of 31 male giraffe stacked on top of one in another. Number 5. Speaking of giraffes, Singapore opened the world's first night zoo. If you are looking for interesting things to do in Singapore, stop by the world's first nighttime zoo. Unlike regular zoos, Singapore nighttime zoo are always people to see animals when they are generally more active in the dark. Number 6. In Singapore, if a person cannot find a date or a real-life partner, government comes to the rescue. Singapore's government has an established social development network to promote marriages among singles and create opportunities, and the service for the singles to find life partner. Its key responsibilities including equipping singles with a relationship for dating skills and ensuring quality and credible dating service are available. Number 7. Singapore is a tiny nation and has no natural resources, so it has to import almost everything it needs. It imports not only sane but even fresh waters from Malaysia. Number 8. Singapore is known for different takes on luxury homes. One of the most surprising things about Singapore is the fact that 85% of its population lives in public housing development, and out of that, 95% of these individuals actually own their units. Number 9. The most expensive home in Singapore was listed for $300 million and expected to sell for just under $250 million. The 85,000 square foot site on the elevated lot at 33 Nissan Road near the cities of Botanic Garden. Number 10. There is a sin tax in Singapore apart from the taxing the wealth. Singapore is taxing excessively everything since related alcohol, tobacco, and more with at least 40% more than the rest of the world. That's done wonderful for the economy.